You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Oi, oi, Savoy! Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever you are tuning on around from this beautiful world of ours. Welcome to Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Footy Show podcast. We have Steve Wraith from at NUFC Matters and at Ted the Mackham, who is on holiday, but we've roped him in from his hotel room and we've told him to come and show up because we're sick of you being unprofessional. So here he is, Teddy boy. Thank you for joining us. I have gone for a younger look today as well. Thank you for the comments that were left on the pod last week about three old men. I've tried to make myself look a bit younger this week. I can't match up with these two anymore. So
wow.
We come to you today with a quick one. We want to talk about the deadline day transfers. Obviously, there was a lot happening for all three Northeast clubs. Middlesbrough making a fantastic signing. I think it was, I want to ask the lads as well, and if you're out there, maybe leave a comment below. When was the last time the three Northeast clubs all signed a striker on deadline day? Because all three of us went and got a striker on deadline day, all got a number 9, although our one took number 13, but technically he's a number 9 because he's a fantastic striker. But let us know in the comments last time that Sunderland, Newcastle and Sunderland all signed a striker on the day. And of course, make sure to consider liking and subscribing, and you can follow us on all platforms there. Let's get into it. Sunderland are going to kick us off today because they had the biggest window out of all three clubs. They spent the most. They absolutely blew everyone out of the water with their transfers. They sold Jobe and they said, you know what, we're not going to stick around with Riggy in the middle. We've had enough. So we're going to go blow the boat. And then what was an interesting deadline day, they saw a striker that had recently been loaned, taken back by Chelsea. Come on, Chelsea. Only to then go and have to sign another striker in Brobby, which looks like a fantastic signing. And also another winger as well, Teddy boy, to maybe to cover the injuries of Mundell potentially, but it also gives you more strength come the AFCON in December as well. And obviously the December's fixture is amazingly tough for Sunderland. But let's talk about it. The main one, mate, for me, obviously, Brobby coming in needed to happen because Mark Gué, I believe, is it? Gué? I'm going to go with Gu, is it? Gué? Gu. Yeah.
You.
See you later is what we said to him because he was on loan for 2 weeks and Chelsea took him back in a recall.
The streets.
Crazy. So now for
the streets will never forget, right?
Easy. So Liam Delap's injury caused a ripple through about 4 different clubs, which is incredible. It affected Jackson's move to Bayern Munich. It affected Gu's move back to Chelsea, and then it moved Brobby on from Ajax as well. But honestly, what an amazing signing that is. Brian Brobby coming in to Sunderland as the new number 9. How do you feel about that? And obviously, how did you feel about losing Mark? I mean, you didn't really get to experience him.
Well, I mean, he got a goal every 103 minutes, so that's you can't really argue with that. Yeah, absolutely. It's up there with Sam Allardyce's England record as manager, really, isn't it? It's terrific stuff. Yeah, listen, I was quite surprised because there wasn't even an agreement in the loan agreement for him to go back, which was quite a shock that happened. So yeah, apparently there was a deal reached between the two clubs where there's some sort of compensation being due to Sunderland for that, for the early recall. And then, yeah, you're kind of worried at that stage, thinking, well, we absolutely need a striker. And historically, we haven't done well for that on deadline days. So I imagine I was surprised when we got Brobby over the line, which looks, to all intents and purposes, a really good sign. And I am still wary because it's from the Dutch league, and you either get a Luis Suarez or you get an Alfonso Alves, and you know
thanks.
It's a bit of a I could say Josie Altidore then, because he also came from the Dutch league.
True.
He looked prolific as anything, and then absolutely stunk the joint out. But
he did.
Yeah. It's an interesting sign. I mean, we've done well across the 3 signings that we brought in on the day. Geertruida looks a decent sort of acquisition at the back. And then, like you said, with the winger coming, Traore as well, a little bit more experienced as well. He's 29 years old, so that's adding that little bit of depth and a bit of nous Premier League experience as well with Aston Villa, of course. So that's really important that we have that, I think. And obviously, with the outgoings that happened,
a lot.
It's a direct replacement for Paddy Roberts. Paddy's obviously gone on loan to Birmingham. I think that looks, for all it's a loan move, I think that's a permanent move, to be honest. Which is a shame. He's done well for us. I think kind of in the last sort of back half of the season, he didn't look quite the same as what he used to. But yeah, being a great servant to the club, came to us at a very, very important time to help us get out of League One. So he goes with everyone's blessing, I guess. The Brobby one's the one that everybody's talking about. Obviously, what is it? I think it ended up being 15 players in during this window. So we haven't seen them all yet. We can't wait for this ridiculous blooming international window to be over with. But and then let's see how the knuckle down and get into the squad. I wasn't surprised with the other outgoings. Alexic has gone out on loan, which 20-year-old, he needs to be sort of playing a little bit more football. Sealt, really good loan move for Sealt. Going to Werder Bremen. I think that's a good solid one, a good standard of club that he's gone to. I wasn't as such. I still think for all he did okay, I still think he needs he needs practice at a level that is decent, but not the same sort of pace as what the Premier League is. So I think that's a great move for Jensen Sealt. Now, I think we've got more than adequate cover with what's come in. It's actually shaping up to be decent. I just want to get on with the football now, lads.
No, mate, I'm the same. It's coming at a bad time for all of us, I think. But maybe not Steve. He was saying he liked the international break. But I tell you what, I haven't. But it was a busy day. I want you to rate that transfer window, mate, out of 10 for me. Because honestly, I didn't expect it going in. Obviously, the Sheffield United victory was incredible, right? And then there's been a few questions, and I've tried to obviously I follow a few Mackems on social media. I mute them, especially you. But I tend to try to keep up in touch, and the consensus is obviously it's a window that needed to happen. But there was a little bit of I guess sadness that the boys that did take Sunderland up aren't now getting the chance to perform in the Premier League. The likes of Patrick Roberts, who was, obviously Job chose to move on. Rig, Isidore is still in there about, but you look at Ballard, obviously his injury, Luke O'Nien, his injury, Patterson as well, who Job absolutely loves for a five-a-side goalkeeper. Job, we need to talk about that one. Is there any, from your side of the fence, is there any sort of feeling of, that it needed to happen? Or is there any sort of, do you feel bad for the lads that did get the club, promoted? I know it was obviously a Watson goal, but, are there players there that have been unfairly treated now because of the incomings?
No.
There you go. Give us a rating out of 10.
Honestly, it's, of course you do feel for them a little bit, but that's the nature of the game. They'll be half expecting it anyway. If we're honest, we consider ourselves a little bit fortunate to actually get up into the Premier League. We didn't expect that last season. I don't think if most fans hand on heart would say they didn't expect it at all. The players did well to get us where we were. There's not a chance on earth that they would have been the lads to keep us actually in the Premier League. It needed to happen. I think it's far outweighed any expectations that any Sunderland fan had. And honestly, 10 out of 10 transfer window. Really is. Absolute 10 out of 10. We can't ask any more from the owners than backing it like that. Yeah. It should be fair to say, let's see where we are after Christmas and getting into the January transfer. Let's see if they, deem it necessary to bring even more in. I suppose that's going to depend on where we find ourselves in the league table at that particular time.
What about AFCON? Are you worried about that? Obviously, there was a lot of players
I'm not playing.
Signed. Yeah, you're not playing? Okay. Well, there was a lot of players signed for Sunderland, obviously, that will take part in AFCON. It's going to be, but I think you've covered yourself in the depth because you have still kept the likes of Ballard and O'Nien and Rig and stuff like this who can step into a lot of those playing roles, even Isidore. So I think, from all the the worry on social media of everyone talking about how Sunderland are going to be decimated at AFCON. I can't really see it. And if I do, I mean, it's going to be just boys that are probably sitting and waiting in the wings that deserved or wanted a chance in the Premier League anyway. Now, obviously, it's a very, very tough fixture list in December anyway, given, without taking, AFCON there. But I think that, I think the depth and the squad has been built quite intelligently to cover that AFCON period.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that, to be honest. Bearing in mind, some of those players are only going to be missing for 2 games if they get knocked out early. So it's it's not a massive amount of time. Looking at a couple of the sort of African games that were taking place this week, Burkina Faso and places like that where Traore is playing, they're not expected to fare very well in AFCON. So at the worst, they're going to be missing for 6 games, I think, if they manage to get to the final. So, yeah, listen, we'll be getting them back in dribs and drabs. And like you say, I think that the strength and depth that they've put in place, yes, there's some players who we are very much going to miss out of that. The likes of Siddiqui have just absolutely hit the ground running and been so impressive in midfield. But, this is where the likes of Chris Rigg will get their opportunity in and around sort of December, January, and they need to absolutely make the most of that. And that's what they will be working towards. Even Dan Neil's, he's in the last year of his contract. If he's going to get a new offer and a new deal, he needs to prove his worth. And as much as I'm critical of him at times, he's got the ability there. He just needs to, really, really knuckle down and make that next jump, like what Dan Ballard has. He's straight up to the challenge of the Premier League. You can see that. Dan Neil now needs to knuckle down and prove that and provide that competition. Make it difficult for somebody like Siddiqui to get back in the side when AFCON's over with. So it's a challenge that the clubs. I have faith in the club. Never thought I'd say that this soon, but I've got faith in the decisions they've made to actually, provide a little bit of strength and depth. So and don't forget, there's still actually some free agents out there who look pretty useful. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we go out and flesh that squad out even further, if necessary, of course.
If necessary. Well, it's going to be an interesting watch now to see how Sunderland cope with the rigors of Premier League. Obviously, I think the board and obviously the backing that they've given Regis, you couldn't have asked for much more going into the Premier League. If you look at Leeds and you look at the likes of what Burnley have done as well,
really is.
I mean, they have, you really have set up out of the best I've seen in the past couple of years. And I don't think you've gone for, I think from the, we've spoken about this a lot on this pod. We've seen that a lot of the teams that have come up in previous years kind of set up for another year in the championship by buying the best championship players, if that makes any sense, in terms of Ipswich and the likes of Luton Town. When they came up, they bought really good championship players, Jack Clark and all this sort of stuff, which kind of for me is like, well, that's great. But when you come back down, do you know what I mean? You need Premier League proven players, and you've gone and gotten Xhaka and all this sort of stuff. So I think it's an interesting backing, and I think you've done very well to back Regis in that regard. You have lost Alan Brown. Obviously, that's a massive loss. I think, unfortunately, you will be relegated because you've sold your best player, arguably, who played on a broken leg. And is one of the strongest players. He went on to, let me just read this best club in Middlesbrough. He went on to Middlesbrough. The first time, by the way, Middlesbrough have taken both a loan signing from Sunderland and Newcastle. I did my fingers the other way around there, from both the Northeast clubs, because, well, who doesn't want to come to Middlesbrough? Obviously, Matty Targett does, and Alan Brown does as well. Just a quick
We do help out the smaller clubs as well, right?
You say the top of the
We've done the same with Darlington and Hartlepool as well, haven't we, Steve? We've done this a lot. Middlesbrough's like the new Spennymoor.
Talk to me about Alan Brown. What can Borough fans expect from the new loan signing in Alan Brown?
A very, very dependable player. He's nothing flash, don't get me wrong, but he does simple things well. It's one of these. We've all known the game, and Steve, we've sort of been involved at that non-league level and Sunday league level and all that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Alan Brown's one of these who'll win the ball and pass it 5 to 10 yards and just keep things moving. He's just a solid player. He's a 7 to 8 out of 10 every week kind of player. At championship level, he's one of them who I don't think he would make the step up. And if Middlesbrough, please, I hope you do get promoted this season.
Easy walking.
well, so far it's looking good. But yeah, he's one of those that you wouldn't take him up on a permanent contract if you did get promoted. He's not Premier League quality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What he is a very, very good Championship player. He brings stability. He's a good guy around the dressing room by all accounts. He's upbeat. He's got no ego whatsoever. He's just a really, really solid, dependable squad player, and I think it's a perfect fit. It really is. I think he'll do well there. I kind of thought maybe
trio.
Say again, sorry.
It kind of sounds like me to this trio.
No, I'm losing connection there. Sorry. My mum always said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Yeah.
Well, we're going to quickly move on. We are doing a shorter pod today, obviously, just to cover the transfer window and everything that happened. Let's move on to Newcastle United, who were not shy on deadline day, making two massive signings. Wissa, who was apparently very, very close to that deadline day mark. One of the rumours going around of having to chase him down on the training ground to try and get him to document to see that he had missed. But Steve, overall, mate, a massive transfer window for Newcastle United. You've addressed, we spoke about this last week. We've addressed, obviously, well, look at that right there. You've addressed some of the areas you said you needed to, but it was obviously plagued by the Alexander Isak news. We have seen him get his deadline day move to Liverpool, which was obviously, we saw it coming, but was it going to happen? Was he going to then rot in the reserves? He hasn't. He has gotten that move to Liverpool, which obviously opened the door for you to go and sign Wissa as well. Obviously, transfer deadline day, mate. Seeing Isak out the door. Let's talk about that one first, mate. Happy to see the back of Isak after everything that had been put through?
I mean, look, he was a good servant of the club at the time that he was there. Just soured his legend, really, by the way that he behaved in getting his move. I thought it was completely different to Wissa. I've seen lots of fans having a pop saying that Wissa was the same. Well, Wissa had it in writing, and people are saying, well, have you seen it? I mean, obviously I haven't, but, the bottom line is that Wissa came out and made a statement and said, I've got a written agreement with the club to go and explore the options. If he hadn't got a written agreement, I'm sure that the lawyers and legals would have been all over that and he would have been held to account. So, Wissa had an agreement to go and find another club. If a club came in and bid, then that was it. But Isak, ruined everyone's summer in it from a black and white persuasion. It's been an awful summer. Should have been a summer of celebration. First trophy in the cabinet for many years. Money to spend in the summer and a chance to strengthen the squad. But it's just been overshadowed by Isak. But it's in the past. It's in the history books now. We'll move on. As for the transfer window, it's been a positive one. Steve Hasty, who does the Amigos with us, the way he described it was, we've strengthened the squad, we've weakened the team slightly, and I would probably agree with that, because you're taking a 25 goal striker out of your team and giving it to a rival, and you're bringing in two players, one who's got great Premier League experience and scored 19 goals last season, none of them penalties, of course, and you're bringing in an unknown. Voldemort is a gamble. As Isak was a gamble. You've got no guarantee that a player will come from a foreign league and be able to hit the ground running. A lot being made of the performance of Germany the other night and the fact that he was playing. But Eddie Howe is a very good coach. We've seen it. Joe Linton was the biggest waste of money that Newcastle fans had ever seen. A year and a half later, you wouldn't have him out of the team. So I'm sure that Eddie will get a tune out of Voldemort. I'm sure Wissa will hit the ground running. Very happy with the loan deal. I mean, Barry Hogan's in the chat asking, why don't we use the loan market anymore? Well, we did, and Ramsdale is the exception. I think Ramsdale is a hell of a signing. I think we all agreed on that last week. That it's improving Newcastle in the goalkeeping level. And then, again, I mentioned them last week. We brought in Malik Chow, right-sided centre-half, who will be ultimately a replacement for Fabian Schär. We brought in Elanga, scored for Sweden, of course, a couple of nights ago. Looks very sharp, and I'm sure we'll get better, as time goes on. And we've probably picked up a snip and we've weakened one of our rivals in Aston Villa by bringing in Jacob Ramsey. So, that net spend of over £280 million is great, and selling Isak means that we've got money to spend in the next windows. So January, pretty much like Sunderland, if we need to strengthen, we can without rocking the boat with PSR. And ultimately, when it comes to the summer window next year, Newcastle will be able to do the same again. ultimately, as well, the other big signing for Newcastle is David Hopkinson, who's come in.
Yep.
Probably one of the worst secrets in Newcastle United's football club that he was coming in. He comes in with good pedigree. He comes from being more of a commercial director at Real Madrid, but of course he ran Madison Square Gardens, and this guy's CV is very good, and I think that once we get the director of football in, which will be very soon, that will be all the ducks in a row again. And we've just got to hope that we have better luck with the director of football than we've had with the last two. I expect training ground announcements, and I expect a ground announcement this season as well. I think we'll find out whether we're moving to a new stadium. I think things will start to move quite quickly now that those people are going to be, ultimately in place. But yeah, good window. Happy with the window, right? And let's hope that the players can hit the ground running. I'm not unduly concerned or worried. We've got a good team. We've got a good dressing room, and finally that elephant in the room has moved on.
Yeah. Speaking of that elephant, Teddy, we'll get your thoughts. We have got the cat coming up in just a moment, but just before, no, it wasn't a reference to you, Ted. Don't take it personally. I'm talking about the elephant in the room.
I know, put a couple of pounds on over me holiday, but Jesus.
Look, I love you just the way you are, Ted. Okay, don't need to impress me. Okay?
That's gaslighting.
Let's get your thoughts before we go to the cat on the keyboard. Isak, mate, obviously left for Liverpool. Your thoughts on obviously getting that done? I mean, you said it on the last week on the pod how disgusted you were in the behaviour of Isak and the way he treated Newcastle.
Any player that does that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, he's kicked and stomped and he's got his move to Liverpool, mate. Your thoughts?
Good riddance. Just because he's going to Liverpool doesn't mean he's actually going to be a success either. You look. The last time that Newcastle pulled this one off, it was Andy Carroll, and he absolutely stunk out Anfield. Yeah, so he's not guaranteed to do well there. And I think, I echo what Steve was saying about Valdemada. Obviously, I'm on holiday with Dr. Mick, who's a staunch mag as well. Yeah. And he watched the Germany game and said, actually, Germany stunk. It wasn't just a case of Valdemada having a bad game. The whole German side were pretty pants by their own high standards. So it's nothing to read into it all, that, to be honest. Let's face it, Emil Heskey used to be all right in an England shirt, but he was crap the rest of the time. So, it swings and roundabouts ultimately, isn't it? No, I think it's good. Certainly the sporting director move is good. I meant to add, getting these backroom people in place and the right people in place is so much more important than what we probably appreciate as fans most of the time. Sunderland have done a similar thing with the new chief financial officer. Very interesting stuff as well. Papa Dimitru, I do apologise, has come in and he's registered a new business out of Black Cat's house, which is all about rugby sevens. So it should be interesting. We might see some rugby coming to the stadium, like some big tournaments, things like that. Whatever, with what's happening at Newcastle, with potential new stadiums, the training ground, what's happening at Sunderland, what's happening at Middlesbrough, it's just looking like a great time for North East football right at this minute.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's been a fantastic window. We're going to talk about Middlesbrough and wrap up, obviously, the other signings. But first, it's time for everyone's favourite cat on a keyboard. It's time for Troll of the Week.
Yes, plenty trolls aimed at our friend Isak. Isak in 3 years' time wouldn't surprise us at all. Breaking news, Alexander Isak's refusing to play for Liverpool and wants to move to Real Madrid immediately. And the Cop Watch. What's going to be Isak's new chant then? Legacy Magpie said, how about the lyrics from UB40, Rat in My Kitchen, but to the tune of the national anthem? Which was a great suggestion. He settled in at his new home, and all is going well for Alexander Isak. And Liverpool, the only place in the world where your wallet gets off the bus 2 stops before you do. As for Isak, his little statement, thank you to Newcastle. This was great from Neil Farrington. He did an AI test, and 96.5, and that was AI generated. Really from the heart. Newcastle, of course, that was it. And Newcastle United can announce the sale of Alexander Isak to Liverpool. Honestly, and I love the bit at the end. Ends. Yes, it did. Ends. Paddy Power, I love this. 11 years have passed, and this tweet is still up. That was Manchester United saying, "Congratulations, Man City, on winning the Premier League. We'll be able to get the trophy back next season." And Paul Embry, I was sat behind this lad at Molyneux today. You can't beat football humour. Amputino, 21.
Heard he's a baller.
Very good. We've got this one from Adam's son. Can someone please explain what this man's got to do to get an England call-up? Easily one of the best defenders in the Premier League. Tuchel doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, do you want to tell us, Ted, which country this kid plays for?
Yeah, he plays for Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Good.
Fantastic. And great to see Arsenal. If you've ever been to Arsenal, got some wonderful statues celebrating ex-players. Kai Havertz's statue has been revealed. Fantastic. And credit to Maxence Lacroix. I did meant to put this in last week. He bought everybody a drink at Crystal Palace during a friendly. And following on from the footsteps of that with like cards and photographs, people do a lot of this at matches now. I love this. Park Enmar brought this absolute legend with me today. Only fair, I returned the favour after she took me to my first game at Goodison Park. Send us a win today, and that was lovely. That was like, it's nice to see that social media can be used for something slightly different.
Not wrong.
Love that FC coach Lucas Kwanasik wore the club's home shirt and a pair of jeans on the sidelines for their win over Mainz yesterday. Oh, that's brilliant, man.
Love that.
That's brilliant. And I did like this one as well. Cristiano Ronaldo. Very good. We do know all this backwards and forwards between Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest and who was going to be in what European trophy. Well, the fans certainly haven't forgotten. Very, very good. And a Birmingham City fan went to the match against Oxford, and when he got back to his car, it was like this. Unfortunately, this is a common trend that's happening around St Andrews. It might be worth paying the tenant to have it looked after in a car park when visiting the ground, is the suggestion.
Right.
Dear God.
Paddy Roberts.
And in this fish and chip shop, brilliant cod, haddock, Manchester United, all come battered. Fantastic. And the sun, well, we're getting the last embers of it in the UK now. It's a different place when the sun's out.
Yep.
I'm doing the same.
Yep.
You are doing the same.
And
when I was getting my prostate exam, lads, I asked the doctor where I should put my pants. Over there beside mine wasn't the answer I was expecting. We do like cats on this show, so we're going to finish off with this little winner. Winner of the Lazy Cat Award. If you've got any tweets, then please send them over to me by email, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com, and we'll feature them on the show next week.
That is Troll of the Week. Welcome back to Three's a Crowd podcast. It's a special edition transfer deadline days. We talk Middlesbrough, Sunderland and Newcastle United and their transfer window and what happened on a very busy deadline day. We asked the question at the start of the show. If you can, and you're watching this back, leave us a comment below and let us know the last time that each three of the Northeast football clubs signed a striker on deadline day, each signing a striker in Brian Bobby and Wissa, and obviously Middlesbrough signing on David Strelic, who had a fantastic game against Germany. We're going to talk about Middlesbrough right now. Middlesbrough making a massive moves on deadline day to complete their summer of absolute changeover. We saw a lot of players going out. They were on the fringe. We saw a couple of signings come in, but the biggest one of all was David Strelic, the Slovakian striker, coming on in an £8.5 million move. They're rumoured, but obviously fans who hadn't seen David were able to watch him play against Germany, where he scored an absolute screamer. My God, he look good. He's Middlesbrough's new striker up front, and what completes a fantastic turnaround from Middlesbrough, who started off so slow in the transfer window. A week or two in, the way it sort of happened for Middlesbrough fans and for Newcastle and Sunderland fans watching on, Middlesbrough went into the summer of, oh my God, here we go again under Carrick. And then a couple of weeks later, Carrick gets sacked. And then we kind of waiting around like that came out of the blue. Then we're waiting around for 2 to 3 weeks, rumoured who we're going to get. Then we kind of get Rob Edwards. And then we wait around and not much happens. And then we kind of get one signing through the door. And then we kind of waited around, and then all of a sudden come the transfer deadline deal. We've had 13 players come in, 11 go out. I mean, it's been a massive turnover for Middlesbrough playing group, and it's been a fantastic show of support for Rob Edwards and his new look squad, which looks absolutely fantastic, I must add. He's added speed, but David Strelic is a fantastic signing, our striker, who comes in to compete with Tommy Conway. Tommy Conway scored 2 and 2 now, and our number 9. David Strelic has got a big ask to knock Tommy out of it, but it's just good competition. We saw David, and I'm not sure if you saw it, Teddy Boy. He scored against Germany midweek, which was a fantastic goal from our new striker. But Middlesbrough obviously finishing off the day as well with Alan Brown, the loan signing from Sunderland, who comes in just to strengthen that midfield because we did let Dan Barlaser go out on loan. And the one first close to my heart, Tom Glover, our Australian goalkeeper, was released. Obviously, he's been asking for a move for a couple of windows. Middlesbrough fans, I can reveal, he has been unhappy sitting on the bench as our number 2 goalkeeper. He obviously featured in that Doncaster performance, the game we don't talk about, and he's wanted to move for a couple of windows to try and secure his move so he can make the Socceroos team for the World Cup next year. Well, we've released him, and we went and signed John McLaughlin, the 37-year-old Scotsman, who is a very
Sunderland.
Ex-Sunderland, yeah, exactly. I think he's been around the system quite a bit, coming from Swansea, but 37-year-old backup goalkeeper, which I think is a smart move, obviously, as well. Middlesbrough obviously had a massive task to move some of these fringe players on. They did that, I think, and then some, but none more so. Obviously, Marcus Force going down to Bolton, who I think is a fantastic signing for them. Dan Barlaser, who was going to be way behind Hackney and Morris in that midfield. Alan Brown coming in to back them up as well. Then adding speed in Sonjay Hansen, Callie Sene, who was fantastic as well, and then David Strelic. I mean, I think for me, it's a 10 out of 10 window. I can't remember Middlesbrough being, this active in a window so late on. And one thing for me as well is what I can say to you now, Borough fans, is you can see here, this is when Middlesbrough's transfer team and Kieran Scott and Chris Jones were allowed to do their own work. We saw the signing of Kelechi Iheanacho. Good luck at Celtic, by the way. And when that happened, that was what we saw with Michael Carrick working alongside. Well, when Rob Edwards, who said we've got a fantastic team, they've got the lists already drawn up, he let them go and get their targets. And we end with that is a summer of signings done by the recruitment team. And Rob Edwards is there, obviously, to coach. Now, he obviously had input on a few of the loan signings that came in late. Yes, on Alan Brown. Yes, on Matty Targett. But that was it. All the other signings that came in on permanents were already drawn up and already done heavily before Rob Edwards was even named as coach. So when Middlesbrough's recruitment staff are allowed to cook, they can cook. And I tell you, my goodness, did they cook on that transfer deadline day. Teddy Boy, Middlesbrough obviously finishing off with one of your own, Alan Brown, but a massive signing of David Strelic, mate, who comes in, leaving Champions League team to come to the Championship. And in what arguably is going to be a massive signing, 24 years old, scored for Slovakia against Germany midweek as well. Middlesbrough's window, I mean, for the top of the Championship, mate, it looks a hell of a squad now for me.
Yeah, it does. You've gone out and strengthened exactly where you needed to. I was the only surprise for me was that you didn't go for a first choice goalkeeper, but let's see how that develops, because you could still do something in January on that. But I think you're pretty secure there. John McLaughlin will not let you down. He was a big favourite at Sunderland. We would have probably preferred if we'd kept him there, to be honest, but instead he wanted to move to Rangers back at the time. Even at 37-year-old, he'll bring in experience, a really, really good professional. When called upon, he's a hell of a penalty stopper as well. Like he's useful for that sort of thing. So yeah, good solid sign that. But Strelic, I mean, that's just an absolute coup that you've pulled off there.
Yeah,
that's somebody who Premier League clubs have been sniffing around this guy for a little while now. So he's exactly the sort of player that can help propel you up the table. I'm saying up the table, into the next table. He's the kind of player who can do that. And that front line now, and somebody's already mentioned there, apologies, I'm on my phone, so I can't read everything as well as I normally can. Maybe even Strelic playing as like a number 10 role off Conway could even work. I think it's absolutely exceptional signing. I already commented last week about the signings you made at fullback. Matty Targett came on and did very, very well. And Britton, I think Britton's an absolute class player, really, really classy player. You've got ball-playing defenders You know, Rob Edwards gets this kind of like this moniker of being, hoofball and all that kind of thing. And yet, that game against Sheffield United just before the international break, played some absolutely wonderful football. And, if you can get that and get Strelic up top, who can either, he can score great goals, but he can also play those little final passes as well. That's where football matches are won, with those final balls. And that's the important thing. And I think you've got the staff there now in the Championship. Bear in mind, again, you've still got money to spare because, you've got the Morgan Rogers money still. There's a little bit of that left over. So, you're not in a bad position to actually go, if you're still, top 2 or 3 come January transfer window, I think Steve Gibson might just open that checkbook again and just make sure that you get up. Because the squad as it looks right now, very, very impressive signings. I've been very impressed with that. And like I say, great time for the North East clubs, and I want Middlesbrough up there as well. I absolutely want Middlesbrough up there. So, well done, Steve Gibson. Well done, the recruitment team. Like you say, that's where Michael Carrick was getting it wrong by wanting a couple of his own signs. I mean, have you seen the state of Iheanacho at Celtic? It looks like he's already been hitting the Glasgow takeaways.
It's wild, mate. It's wild how the man keeps getting a game. Thank you all for the 420 watching live. We do appreciate your support. We do love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for supporting us week in, week out. Honestly, I think it's been a fantastic window for Middlesbrough in terms of moving some players out as well that we needed to as well. There was lots of fringe players there that unfortunately, weren't going to get a game and we're just going to be taking up a wage. Well, Middlesbrough were able to move them off. But Steve, mate, we've made a fantastic effort. Obviously, top of the championship table. We're aiming to be the 3rd Northeast team in the Premier League, hopefully once again next season. I think it's been a fantastic window. We moved out a lot of Deadwood, but this David Strelic signing, mate, who did feature for Slovakia against Germany midweek, seems like a fantastic signing at championship level.
Yeah, great signing, and I'll reiterate what Ted said. It's been a great window. The recruitment team have done very well. Yeah, we covered it last year, but it was going stale under Carrick. Carrick will go on, and I'm sure he'll become a good manager elsewhere and do very well. But it had gone stale, and Edwards has come in and just changed things. He's been, the purse strings have been unleashed, but the recruitment has been key. And we know that it's a marathon, not a sprint. The championship, it's not done in, no league, in August, September reflects usually what the league's going to look like in May. But it's all about having that kind of ability to win a game in any type of game. You need to dig in the championship sometimes. Other times, you need to alter your formation and play defensive away from home. It's there's so many different ways of winning a football match in the championship, but it's having that kind of consistency. That's the key, and you can't afford to have a blip in the championship because there's so many games. You can't afford to have that run of draws and the odd defeat. But then you can pick yourself back up, and of course the playoffs are there as that kind of dangling carrot. If you're not good enough to win the league, you know that you've got that opportunity. And I think Middlesbrough could probably take a lot of a lot of look at what Sunderland did last year, because once Sunderland knew they were in the playoffs, they literally protected their squad, they protected their team. And I remember sitting doing this podcast going, what on earth are they doing? And going into this, and it's the crest of a slump. But, look what happened. They went.
You weren't the only one.
They went and won the playoffs. So, but I have a sneaky feeling that Middlesbrough could do this. And I think they could do it. They could go up as champions. And that would be incredible to have all 3 North East teams back in the division.
Wouldn't it?
Probably the first time since around about 2008, 9, 10.
Yeah, 2008, 9, because in 16, 17, both Sunderland and Middlesbrough came up, but obviously Newcastle had gone down. But the last time all 3 of us were there was, 2008, 2009.
Newcastle and Middlesbrough
we both went down, we had Gareth Southgate. Obviously, you had Alan Shearer, I think, as your temporary manager at that point, and we both went down. We went down on deadline day with a loss, on the last day of the season with a loss to West Ham. And I think Sunderland tripped over and hurt themselves, and nobody cares what they did. But us 2 obviously went down to start the rebuild. But that was the last time that we saw all 3 of these beautiful Northeast clubs in the Premier League. Lads, before we wrap it up, we're going to get some predictions now. The window is shut. We know what team we have got going forth through now till January. We want to see some predictions now from each of these three teams. I want to see where you think your club is now going to finish. Obviously, there's a couple of leagues to talk about there from Newcastle, but the one obviously we need to talk about is league performance. Where you think prediction-wise, now with the squad you have been given, you are going to be, let's say come Christmas, doesn't mean to be end of the day because we've got another January window ahead of us. Let's say come Christmas, your prediction, Teddy boy, we'll kick it off with you, mate. Sunderland, who had a massive window. Come Christmas Day, mate, we're sitting there, we're talking about your Christmas cake recipe. We're all enjoying a nice slice of, of turkey or ham, whatever you're choosing. And we're talking about Sunderland being in what position come Christmas Day?
This is a really good one. You've sprung this one on me as well.
I know, right?
I'm going to stick with that guy. I know we've got an absolutely horrible January coming. So it's before that, though. Go on, I'm going to stick my neck out and say 12th.
12th. Okay, I'm writing these down because we're going to remember. Middlesbrough, obviously in the championship. They are currently first come Christmas Day. Where do you see Middlesbrough being, Teddy boy?
Be very difficult to maintain first all the way through the season. I'm going to go third, but I still think you'll go up automatically, ultimately. But yeah, I'll say third by Christmas.
And obviously, your rivals, you would have had one game between you by now. At Christmas Day, where will Newcastle United be sitting in the Premier League?
By Christmas Day, go on, Ted.
They'll have dropped 3 points 2 weeks before Christmas. His face. It's going to 3 months of this, Steve. I don't know whether we can keep this going.
We need the spoon, mate. You're going to be stirring that pot.
Sixth.
Six moves ahead of Sunderland. All right, Stevie, let's go to you, mate. We've got Middlesbrough, we've got Sunderland, we've got Newcastle. League positions. Start off with Sunderland, like I did Teddy boy. Where do you see them? Christmas Day, we're sitting down, sharing a drink over Zoom as we do, and we're talking about where Sunderland in the Premier League come Christmas Day.
Yeah, I think they'll continue the decent form. I think they will come a cropper against some of the bigger teams more. The teams that are always challenging for Europe: Aston Villa, Newcastle, Liverpool, Man City. Yeah, I'll go a conservative 10th. I'll go a conservative 10th.
Oh wow.
Okay, Middlesbrough down in the championship. Obviously, we are sitting first. Where do you see Middlesbrough coming Christmas Day?
Top of the league.
Top of the league. That's my boy, Steve. I always had a soft spot for you. And obviously, over to Newcastle United. You've had a slow start, but you've gotten the window out of the way. Isaac's drama's all done. Eddie Howe now gets to sit down and work his socks off with that squad. Where are Newcastle United come Christmas Day?
9th.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, right, one step ahead of us. I like that.
And it'll be that.
Since when were you the wind-up merchant?
All right, I'm going to go with Sunderland in the Premier League. I'm going to say that they will be 11th come Christmas Day. I already wrote these down because I was thinking, and I have Newcastle United being 6th on Christmas Day in the Premier League. So I think both you teams, both are in for a very good. The only thing, I actually had you a lot higher, Teddy boy, but that December period is just so tough that come Christmas Day, I just want to see where
your long winter
handle that. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how you come with that. I would have had you a lot higher. And Middlesbrough, I've got us. We don't lose a game ever again. There's no football game we'll ever lose again. In fact, Barcelona at St. James's Park prepared to come to the Riverside again next year. You're going to be touring all 3 Northeast grounds because we are absolutely on fire. I've got us first at Christmas. I just think, honestly, with that window, the way we were supplied, the way Rob Edwards is talking about playing wing backs and all this sort of stuff, I think it's going to be fantastic. And I think it's just we're in for a mighty, mighty season leading into another World Cup, lads, which it is international break. Congratulations to England beating Andorra for the 16th time in Tuchel's small reign. I swear England only play Andorra. I haven't seen England play anyone else, by the way. I don't know what's going on there, but Australia obviously getting a win over their compatriots in New Zealand yesterday as well in a friendly. So good luck to all the international teams. Teddy boy, enjoy your holiday. Thank you for making time for us. Good, sir.
I just want to give a quick shout out because a good mate of mine actually just popped up in the chat there, Kane Hobbit, who's one of the greatest techno DJs trans DJs, in the Northeast. So cheers, Kane. Thanks for joining that, mate. But yes, lads, I'll be back in the homestead next weekend. If we're having a show next week, of course. I'll take over the responsibilities. But thank you for your patience with me being on holiday, boys.
No. Everyone loves you, Teddy Boy, except for the Mighty Borough fans. I mean, no, we obviously...
And Jermaine Pennant.
And Jermaine Pennant, who is always welcome on the show. Stevie, lad, you've got a big, obviously, international break, mate, but leading into Newcastle. Champions League ahead of you. Barcelona at home, mate. What a season we've got to look forward to now in talking Newcastle United. Massive season ahead, mate. Obviously, we can see what Newcastle can do in the Champions League. Tough draws, mate, but, looking forward to Barcelona at home, surely.
Yeah, not long now. From Barcelona to Bradford. That's what we've got.
Incredible, isn't it?
Carabao Cup defence. Yeah, looking forward to it all. Plenty of games to come up, and hopefully, back on a Saturday next week. We've got Wolves at home next Saturday, so maybe we can do the show next Saturday, 10 o'clock before the game.
Yeah, we'll definitely try and do the show next Saturday. Middlesbrough have Preston Sunderland, who we got coming back from Teddy Boy.
Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace, that'll be a good game to watch as well.
Yeah.
After all their moves, and Guehi as well. What an interesting saga that's been. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's it for Three's a Crowd. Thank you for joining us for the Deadline Day International Break Special. We have got to shoot off. We'll be back next Saturday to preview all the games and always talk Newcastle United, Middlesbrough and Sunderland right here on Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast Footy Show podcast. It's bye for now. Take care. Thank you for joining us. We love you and always for the support.
Good luck to everybody in the Great North Run.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.